Have you ever pulled up next to a brand new truck or SUV at a red light and wondered, how is everybody affording this? You know the kind of vehicle I mean. Giant wheels, perfect paint, screens everywhere, the kind of interior that looks like a living room decided to become transportation. And then you start doing the math in your head. That thing has to be $60,000, maybe $70,000, maybe more. The payment has to be huge. Insurance cannot be cheap. Gas cannot be cheap. Tires definitely cannot be cheap. And yet there it is, everywhere, sitting in traffic next to you like this is completely normal. So here is the question. Who can actually afford a $900 car payment? Not who can get approved for one. Not who can squeeze one into a budget by skipping everything else. Not who can sign the paperwork while the dealership plays cheerful music and says, "Congratulations." I mean, who can actually afford it in a way that does not quietly damage the rest of their financial life? My name is Cash Cat, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, the fish bank, the mouse market, and why some of the most expensive decisions people make are disguised as normal monthly payments. And that is the first trick. A $900 car payment does not feel like a $70,000 decision. It feels like a monthly decision. It feels like one number. It feels like, can I make this payment on the 15th? But the car does not only cost $900. That is where the entire illusion begins. A $900 payment is $10,800 a year. Before insurance, before fuel, before registration, before maintenance, before repairs, before tires, before parking, before the little accessories people buy because once they have the expensive car, everything around it starts feeling like it should match. So the first answer to who can actually afford a $900 car payment is this. Someone who can afford the whole transportation system, not just the loan. Because if the payment is $900, the real monthly cost might be $1,200, $1,400, maybe even more depending on the vehicle, commute, insurance, and repairs. That is not a car payment anymore. That is a second rent payment with wheels. And the scary part is that most people do not calculate it that way. They sit in the dealership and negotiate the monthly payment like that one number is the truth. The salesperson says, "What payment are you trying to stay under?" And immediately the entire conversation becomes smaller than it should be. You stop asking, "What is this thing going to do to my life over the next 7 years?" You start asking, "Can we get it under $900? And once you ask the smaller question, the system has you. Because there are many ways to make a monthly payment look acceptable. Stretch the loan. Lower the down payment. Roll in old debt. Add the warranty into the financing. Push the term out another year. Suddenly the number fits. And because the number fits, the decision feels responsible. But fitting is not the same as affordable. That is the part nobody wants to say. Because a lot of modern financial life is built around making expensive things fit. Can we make the phone fit? Can we make the couch fit? Can we make the vacation fit? Can we make the car fit? But if everything fits and nothing is left, you did not build a life. You built a payment schedule. So let us run the numbers in a way that is less emotional. A $900 payment is $10,800 per year. If insurance is $250 a month, that is another $3,000 a year. If fuel is $300 a month, that is another $3,600. If maintenance, registration, and repairs average another $200 a month, that is $2,400 more. Now your $900 payment is really about $19,800 per year in transportation cost. Almost $20,000 a year. That means before you eat, before you live somewhere, before you invest, before you take a trip, before you pay a student loan, before you buy groceries, before you help family, before you do anything else, this vehicle wants about $20,000 of your after-tax life every year. Now ask the question again. Who can actually afford a $900 car payment? Someone who can lose nearly $20,000 a year to transportation and still build wealth. That is a very different answer than someone who can make the payment. Now, some people absolutely can't afford it. Let us be fair. If someone has a high income, no bad debt, strong savings, a solid emergency fund at the fish bank, retirement contributions already happening, and the $900 payment is a small slice of their monthly take-home pay, then maybe it is fine. Maybe they love cars. Maybe they value the vehicle. Maybe they can pay it without stress, without delaying their future, without using credit cards to cover normal expenses. That person exists. But that person is not the person the dealership commercials are really counting on. The system makes its money from people who cannot truly afford it, but can be convinced that they can. And the easiest way to convince someone is to focus only on the monthly payment. Here is why that works so well. Monthly payments are emotionally manageable. A huge total price feels dangerous. A monthly number feels familiar. You already pay rent monthly. You already pay utilities monthly. You already pay subscriptions monthly. So when someone says, it is only $900 a month, your brain does not process the full damage. It compares it to other monthly obligations and tries to make room. But money does not care that you divided the cost into smaller emotional pieces. The total still exists. If you pay $900 a month for 7 years, that is $75,600 in payments. If the loan has interest, you may pay far more than the price you thought you were agreeing to. And when those 7 years are done, what do you own? A vehicle that has depreciated, aged, needed repairs, and may be worth a fraction of the money that passed through your hands. That does not mean every car purchase is bad. Transportation matters. Reliable transportation can protect your job, your time, your safety, and your sanity. The problem is when people confuse reliable transportation with identity transportation. Reliable transportation says, I need a vehicle that gets me places safely and does not destroy my budget. Identity transportation says, I need this vehicle to prove something about me. And identity is expensive. This is where car buying becomes psychologically dangerous. People rarely say, I am buying this truck because I want strangers to think I am successful. That would sound silly. Instead, they say, I work hard. I deserve it. I need something reliable. You only live once. The payment is not that bad. I spend a lot of time in my car. It holds its value. I can refinance later. Some of those statements might even be partly true. That is what makes the trap so good. Bad financial decisions usually do not arrive dressed like villains. They arrive carrying reasonable excuses. And a $900 car payment can be wrapped in a lot of reasonable excuses. Maybe your old car really was annoying. Maybe repairs were getting frustrating. Maybe you did need more space. Maybe your job does require driving. Maybe you do care about safety. Maybe you do work hard and want to enjoy your money. But the question is not, can I justify this? You can justify almost anything if you are tired enough. The real question is, what does this payment steal from my future? That is the question the dealership will never ask for you. A $900 car payment might steal your emergency fund. Maybe every month you could have put $500 into the fish bank, but now the car eats it. It might steal your investing. Maybe that $900 could have been going into the mouse market, buying little pieces of future freedom month after month. It might steal your career flexibility. If you have a huge payment, you cannot easily take a better job that pays less at first. You cannot easily start over. You cannot easily walk away from a toxic boss. The car payment becomes a leash. It might steal your sleep. Because now, every time work feels unstable, every time hours get cut, every time commissions are lower, every time a recession is mentioned, your brain remembers the payment. And it might steal your ability to enjoy the car itself. That is the ironic part. When something is too expensive for your real life, you do not enjoy it freely. You protect it nervously. You worry about scratches. You worry about mileage. You worry about insurance. You worry about parking. You worry about the payment. You bought a symbol of freedom and received a very clean cage. Now, let us create a simple affordability test. Not a perfect rule, not personal financial advice, just a reality check. If someone has a $900 car payment and the real total transportation cost is around $1,400 a month, then that person should probably have enough take-home income that $1,400 does not crowd out everything else. If $1,400 is 30% of take-home pay, that is dangerous. That means almost 1 out of every $3 after tax goes to transportation. Your car is not supporting your life at that point. Your life is supporting your car. If it is 20%, it is still heavy. Maybe possible, but heavy. You will feel it. If it is 10% or less, now we are talking about a person who might actually afford it. But for $1,400 to be 10% of take-home pay, that means bringing home around $14,000 a month. That is the kind of math people do not do on the lot. They ask if the payment fits. They do not ask if the vehicle is taking up the financial space of an entire future. Now, there are other signs someone can actually afford a $900 payment. Their emergency fund is already full. They are not carrying high-interest credit card debt. They are already investing consistently. They can pay insurance and maintenance in cash without panic. They could lose income for a few months and still keep the vehicle without disaster. They are not relying on overtime, bonuses, or wishful thinking just to make the math work. That last one matters. A lot of people can afford their car only if life behaves perfectly. But life is rude. Life will not respect your payment schedule. The tire will pick up a nail the same week the dentist bill arrives. Insurance will rise right after groceries rise. The job will get weird right after you sign the loan. The vehicle will need brakes while you are still paying for the vacation you took because you were stressed about the vehicle. If the car only works in a perfect month, you cannot afford the car. You are renting a fantasy from your future self. Now let us talk about the most dangerous phrase in car buying. I can always trade it in. This sounds like an escape hatch. It feels comforting. If the payment gets too heavy, just trade it. If you get tired of the car, trade it. If life changes, trade it. But trading is not magic. Trading is math wearing a smile. If you owe more than the car is worth, that difference does not disappear. It often gets rolled into the next loan. So now you are paying for the old car inside the new car. Then the new car depreciates. Then you get bored or trapped again. Then you roll more negative equity forward. This is how people end up making payments for vehicles they do not even own anymore. It is like carrying ghosts in your loan paperwork. And again, the payment can still be made to fit. That is the creepy part. A lender can stretch the term long enough, the dealership can massage the numbers enough, and suddenly your bad decision from 3 years ago is hidden inside a shiny new bad decision today. But hidden is not gone. This is why people with expensive cars can feel strangely broke. From the outside, they look like they are doing well. From the inside, their paycheck is already spoken for. They have a nice vehicle, but no margin. A polished dashboard, but no breathing room. Heated seats, but no emergency fund. A big screen, but no real options. And options are the whole point of money. CashCat is not against cars. I want that clear. A good car can be a tool. It can get you to work, protect your family, save time, and make life smoother. The problem is when the tool becomes the master. A vehicle should serve your life. It should not become the financial sun that every other planet has to orbit. So who can actually afford a $900 car payment? Someone who can say yes to the car without saying no to everything else that matters. Can you still save every month? Can you still invest? Can you still handle an emergency? Can you still take time off if you need to? Can you still change jobs? Can you still sleep? Can you still repair the car without using a credit card? Can you still live your actual life? If the answer is no, then the payment is not affordable. It is survivable. And survivable payments are how people build lives that look fine from the street, but feel fragile in private. Now let us look at the opportunity cost, because this is where the numbers become almost rude. If you put $900 a month into the mouse market instead of into a car loan, and it grows over years, that money can become serious. Not overnight, not magically, but steadily. That is $10,800 a year going toward ownership instead of depreciation. Even if you do not invest all of it, even if you used half for a cheaper car and half for savings, your future changes. A $450 difference every month is $5,400 a year. Over 5 years, that is $27,000 before any growth. Over 7 years, $37,800. That is a house down payment in some places, a career change fund, a serious emergency reserve, or the beginning of real investment momentum. This is the hidden trade. The question is not expensive car or boring car. The question is expensive car or options. And options are invisible, so they are harder to want. A shiny vehicle gives instant feedback. People see it. You see it. It smells new. The screen lights up. The doors feel heavy. It gives you the emotional reward immediately. Options do not look like much at first. Options look like money sitting at the fish bank. Options look like a mouse market account that quietly grows in the background. Options look like not panicking when your boss acts strange. Options look like being able to say, "No, that offer is too low." Options look like sleeping through the night. The problem is that options feel boring until you need them. Then they feel priceless. Now, some people listening might feel defensive because they already have a big payment. If that is you, do not turn this into shame. Shame is bad fuel. It burns hot and then leaves you stuck. The point is to see the structure clearly. Ask yourself what the car is costing in total. Not to punish yourself, to regain control. Write down the payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, registration, parking, repairs, and expected tires. Get the real monthly number. Then compare it to take-home pay. Then ask what else that number is preventing. Maybe the answer is, I can handle it. Fine. Maybe the answer is, this is tighter than I wanted to admit. Also fine. Now you know. The worst place to be is not having an expensive car. The worst place is refusing to know what the expensive car is doing. Because once you know, you can make a plan. Maybe the plan is keeping it, but cutting other costs temporarily. Maybe the plan is paying it down faster. Maybe the plan is selling before the negative equity gets worse. Maybe the plan is driving it for a very long time after it is paid off, so at least the pain turns into years without a payment. That last part matters. If you already made the expensive decision, the least helpful move is often replacing it with another expensive decision as soon as the loan ends. The wealth-building move is usually to enjoy the paid-off years. The payment disappearing is not an invitation to upgrade. It is a chance to redirect that money toward the fish bank and mouse market. That is how people recover. Not by being perfect, by refusing to repeat the same expensive pattern forever. Now let us zoom out. Why do so many people accept $900 payments in the first place? Partly because cars are emotional. They are tied to safety, status, independence, adulthood, masculinity, success, comfort, family, and identity. That is a lot for one machine to carry. Partly because financing hides the pain. Paying $70,000 at once would make most people freeze. Paying $900 a month lets the pain arrive slowly, like a subscription to stress. Partly because everyone else seems to be doing it. When the parking lot is full of expensive vehicles, your brain starts calling expensive normal. And once expensive becomes normal, reasonable starts looking like failure. But reasonable is not failure. Reasonable is often the quiet beginning of freedom. Driving a cheaper, reliable car while building savings is not embarrassing. Financing your future into a corner to impress people at a stoplight might be. And the funny thing is, most people are not even thinking about you that much. The stranger who sees your car will forget it in 10 seconds. But you will live with the payment for years. Never buy a long-term obligation for a short-term impression. That sentence alone could save people thousands. So here is the clean answer. You can actually afford a $900 car payment if the full cost of the vehicle still leaves you with strong savings, consistent investing, low stress, no high-interest debt, and real flexibility. You cannot actually afford it if the payment only works because you are delaying savings, ignoring maintenance, carrying card balances, depending on overtime, or hoping nothing goes wrong. The dealership may approve you, the lender may approve you, and your friends may approve of the car. But your future self gets the final vote, and your future self does not care how good the car looked on delivery day. Your future self cares whether that decision left them trapped, stressed, and behind, or whether it fit inside a life that was already financially strong. That is the difference between owning a car and being owned by one. So next time you see a $900 payment, do not ask, "Can I make that work?" Ask, "What does that make impossible?" Because the real cost of the payment is not just the money leaving every month. It is the savings that never happen, the investments that never start, the job you cannot leave, the emergency that becomes debt, the future that gets delayed, and the calm you never get to feel. That is why the person who can actually afford a $900 car payment is much rarer than the person driving one. And once you understand that, the older, reliable car in the driveway starts looking different. Not like settling, like strategy.